All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Recovery Summit presented by St. Clair County Community Mental Health and support from the St. Clair County Health Department. Today's presentation is the Balancing Act, Loving Someone with an Addiction. Before we begin, we'd like to go over some general reminders. Please use the chat feature for all questions or comments. Our presenter will be answering questions as time allows. Today's presentation offers one social work CE and one MCBAP credit. If you are requesting professional credits, you must remain on the webinar the entire time for credit. If you lose connection, please reconnect as soon as you are able. A survey will pop up following the conclusion of the webinar. Those of you that are requesting social work CEs, a completion of the survey is necessary. And now I would like to introduce today's presenter, Sharita Harvey. Sharita Harvey is the president of Lifeline Center in Clinton Township, Michigan. She is also the founder of Higher Learning Services, which is a 501c3. She is a licensed master social worker, earned her master's of social work degree at Wayne State University. Sharita went on to become a certified advanced alcohol and drug counselor. Her goal in life is to be a vessel in the community and assist in changing lives one person at a time. Welcome, Sharita. We can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to participate in this education summit. So the title of our PowerPoint is The Balancing Act, Loving Someone with an Addiction. This title came about after working years in the substance abuse community and finding that the attention and focus has been always on the person themselves, and the family never assume or feel like it's a family issue. And when I worked at the hospital, I worked at a psychiatric hospital for about 13 years. And a part of the visitation requirements was that family members would have to go through what they called a family education group in order to see and visit the patient. I found that there was so many people that were uneducated on how substance abuse works, and instead of being able to understand or empathize with the person, the lack of education created anger and resentments. So I thought it was necessary and important for us to be able to teach people that it is an actual disease to kind of eliminate the strain of stress on families. So that's how this PowerPoint presentation came about. Some of the learning objectives for today's presentation, participants are expected to gain an enhanced perspective into the dynamics and the roles involved in the family system in the context of substance use disorder. We will be better able to understand addiction, why people consume drugs or alcohol, understand that substance use disorder is in fact a disease, be able to understand the development of the brain and the side effects of substance use disorder, understand how to create internal peace for themselves, learn how to identify stress versus anxiety, learn some health risks that are caused by chronic diseases due to stress, learn the nature and the neurology of stress itself, some stress management techniques, some support groups, and the resources that we were able to gather. Over the last decade, the National Institute of Drugs Abuse proclaimed that addiction is a chronic relapsing brain disease caused by prolonged substance use. In the official publication, Drugs, Brains, and Behavior, the Science of Addiction director Nora Balco. She wrote, "Today, thanks to science, our views and our responses, to drug abuse have changed dramatically. There's been groundbreaking discoveries about the brain that have revolutionized our understanding of drug addiction, enabling us to respond effectively to the problem." According to the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, there are 4 basic categories that identify substance use disorder. And this is when there is impaired control, physical dependence, social problems, or risk due to use. Most times people get so frustrated on that last piece because they figure if there's so many risks, why do it? So we'll talk a little bit more about that future in our presentation, of course. So why? Why do people consume substances? Some of the reasons that we've been told in the past: it helps with escaping from negative feelings despite the consequences. Keyword, despite consequences. It helps distress by relieving that rush of momentary pleasure. It helps to provide momentary euphoria that help them forget about their stress in that moment. The substance uses, they often take on large amounts over a period of time. So sometimes people are concerned about, how can this person do it one time and never get addicted, or this person do it one time and addicted for a lifetime? It is different. Substance use is only a problem once a person develops a pattern of use. And so we have to be mindful that one person body can use one day or have alcohol one day and be fine, whereas another person's body or system, over a period of time, then it becomes what is considered to be a problem. Did you know that that abuse and addiction to alcohol, nicotine, or illicit and prescription drugs cost Americans more than $700 billion a year in increased healthcare costs, crime, and lost productivity? Every year, illicit and prescription drugs and alcohol contribute to more than 90,000 deaths of Americans. And that tobacco is linked to an estimate 480,000 deaths per year. Substance use disorder does not discriminate. People of all ages suffer from harm and consequences of drug abuse and addiction. Parents' drug abuse often means chaotic, stress-filled homes, as well as child abuse and neglect. These conditions harm the well-being of the development of the children in the home, and they may set a stage for drug abuse for the next generation. Babies are exposed and can be sometimes exposed to drugs and alcohol in the womb, may be born with premature and may be underweight throughout the years of their life. This exposure can slow down the child's intellectual development and affect their behavior in life. Adolescents who abuse drug and alcohol is often considered to be acting out in school. You'll notice a lot of behavioral issues, and this is due to poorly academically, and may also drop out of school early because of the discomfort of not being able to catch on in class or lack of focus when they're in school. But they may also risk unplanned pregnancies, violence, and infectious diseases due to the promiscuous behavior. Adults are affected because adults who abuse alcohol and drugs often have problems performing at work, thinking clearly, remembering, being productive, and they have difficulty focusing and paying attention at times. Oftentimes, adults develop poor social behaviors as a result of their alcohol and drug use. On the contrary, most people say they consume drugs and alcohol in order to be social. However, they do end up lacking social behaviors in the future. One of the biggest questions that I find people ask themselves is, what happened to the person that I once knew? Here are some reasons that people consume substances. Sometimes it starts with curiosity. This is where adolescents are particularly vulnerable because of the strong influence of their peer pressure. Teens are more likely to engage in risky and daring behaviors to impress their friends and express their independence from parental and social rules. I have to elaborate just a little bit more on that part because not only teens deal with peer pressures. I've noticed a lot in the workplaces and in social settings. Adults also can offer peer pressure. It's very rare that you'll hear people say, hey, let's meet up at the library as an adult, or let's meet up at church. It's usually, let's go to the bar to hang out. Let's go to this place, any place that offers alcohol. So we have to remember that there's also peer pressure as adults, not just as teens. So be aware of those social situations that enhance or encourage substance use for those who are in recovery or those who are working towards sobriety. Some people often use substances to feel good. Substance use produce an intense feeling of pleasure. This feeling provides a sensation of euphoria. Stimulants such as cocaine provide a high, followed by feelings of empowerment or self-confidence and increased energy. In contrast, the euphoria caused by opiates such as heroin is followed by a relax and a satisfaction sensation. Some people say just to feel better. Some people suffer from social anxieties, stress-related disorder, and depression. They begin abusing substances in the attempt to decrease or eliminate those feelings of distress. Stress can play a major role in the beginning of substance use or relapse in patients who are currently in recovery. The chemical enhances or improves their cognitive or athletic performance. This is what a lot of people say. When I consume substances, I can do more. I can clean my house. I can go out and be social. All these different things because it gives that momentary euphoric feeling. However, it slowly dies off and then they're unable to get out of bed, unable to participate in activities, unable to be in social settings around family, loved ones. This can play a role in their initial experience. But it also causes substance use disorder, such as prescription stimulants. I watched a special on, I think it was on Netflix, where they was talking about how prescription medications can turn into substance use disorder. It was a very informative documentary, and it was eye-opening to see how many people swear by their doctors, some even more than they would swear by their priests or their higher power, just because they believe that they would get better, and it turned into a substance use problem. So let's be mindful that not everybody wants to go down that road of substance use disorder. Let's be mindful how it started so we can figure out how to end it with that particular person. Is continued drug use a voluntary behavior? There's been so many times where people go back and forth with the misunderstanding of, is substance use a choice or is it truly a medical issue? The initial decision to take drugs, consume alcohol, is typically voluntary in the beginning. However, like we said before, with continued use, a person's ability to control their intake affects their body. And so their ability to exert self control can be seriously harmful as far as impairing their thought process. On the other side of the page, you will see an image of a brain. And so this brain imaging study is of people with addiction, and it shows how it physically changes the frontal cortex of the brain. This is the area of the brain that is most notable for the reward and the pleasure principle, the judgment, the decision making, the ability to learn and remember, and behavior control. Scientists believe that these changes after the way the brain works, alters the way the brain works, and may explain the compulsive and the destructive behaviors that are caused when it is affected by addiction. So, what is addiction? Addiction is defined as a chronic, relapsing brain disease that is characterized by compulsive alcohol and drug seeking and use, despite the harmful consequences. This part here, the key word is relapsing. Someone who stops and they're good to go is not the bigger issue. It's that chronic relapsing. Someone that brain has been so affected that it's difficult to stay in recovery. It is considered a brain disease because alcohol and drugs changes the structure of how the brain works, and these changes can be long lasting if they can also lead to harmful behaviors. And so on the images on the opposite side, you can see the brain that is considered to be healthy and normal for a 43-year-old, and then you see that of a brain of a 43-year-old who has consumed alcohol over a long period of time. And at the bottom, you can see the brain of someone who moderately drinks, and then that of one who consumes substance on a regular basis. How does substance use affect the brain? Well, substance use affects the brain because the brain is filled with neurotransmitters that release, dopamine, which is the part of the neurotransmitters that release that pleasure, that reward principle during their substance use experience. It is connected with the reward circuit of the brain. It acts by reinforcing behaviors that are pleasurable to the person. It leads to neural changes that may help them form new habits such as doing whatever it takes to get to that substance. New habits as when I feel myself getting angry, I go to this substance. When I feel myself getting anxious, I run to this substance. It creates an entire new habit for the person. Dopamine is released during substance use and reinforces the connection between the substance and the pleasurable experience. It trains the brain to repeat the pleasurable experience. So the way I like to look at that is imagining your normal shopping experience. Like this is the day where this is paycheck week. You have no bills to pay. Your dopamine levels are probably at 100%. This is finally my check. I can focus on me. I can do whatever I want to do. 100%. That is the same experience of a person when they try substances for the very first time. It gives them that immediate high feeling, that immediate euphoric feeling. Now, subsequent times of use, we keep trying to get there to that happy moment. But instead of increasing the dopamine, we are decreasing it. And that is why after so long, it takes more on a shorter period of time because it's no longer affecting the brain the way it did in the beginning. And so this is where the pattern is created because I keep looking for that 100%. And then I think of it as like stretching out a rubber band. The more I stretch out this rubber band, it's going to get longer and longer and loses elasticity because it's been abused for so many times of the stretching. And so that's just a visual way to be able to see how it goes from excitement over getting $100 extra in my paycheck to barely being excited to get up and take a shower for the day. I think it's important for us to understand how substance use work so that we're not so affected by the other person's behavior and the change in character because of the substance use. So here's a question for everyone. At what age do you think the brain's frontal cortex is considered to be fully developed? I can't see the chat, so Christy, if you can tell me if anybody is making any guess.
It looks like so far everyone is picking B, 25.
Okay.
Someone just said 26. So yeah, a lot of answers of B, 25.
Okay. So those of you who chose B, you are absolutely correct. The brain prefrontal cortex does not fully develop until age 25. And this is when the person is likely to develop logical thinking skills, decision making, impulse control, and planning ahead, as well as self-regulation. So with this information, I often ask myself, why is it that we are considered to be an adult at age 18? Why are we able to consume alcohol legally by age 21 if our brain technically does not fully develop by age 25? And so when you think about it on that scale, most people gave alcohol or a substance of whatever choice a try, maybe around 14, 15 years old. What would you guys say the average age of first use was for yourself? Just speaking for yourself. And Christy, if you can tell me what the average age is, the first time you've ever tried anything.
We have a lot of answers in here. A lot of them are 14, 15. Trying to scroll through them all. Someone said 18, 19, 12, 13.
Thank you. So it's safe to say that around age 15 is the average time someone tries a substance, unless just look at when the brain develops. So from 15 to 25, if we've already started the process, because some people can just try it and be done, and some people, their habit actually started at 15 and was a full-blown habit by age 16. And let's just say the average person on this recording is 30 years old. So you already have spent half of your life damaging the brain process for a person who has started at 15 and is approximately 30 years old and now deciding that they want to go to rehab or trying to go to rehab. Is going to be so much more difficult because during that time frame, they've already affected their logical thinking, decision making, impulsive control. So when we look at a person who is finally in recovery consistently at age 35 And we're like, why are you still struggling with making decisions, being honest, all those things that we learn as a 15-year-old, how to be productive in high school, then lead on to life. This has already been infected for this person. So now that they are numerically an adult age, but mentally, how far back do we have to go to start over to be able to teach these skills? And so just think of it from that level. And so here's a little picture of the way it should go. Oh, how we wish it could go the way it should go. By age 5 or 6, this is where children master language. I don't know how many of you out there have children, but if you've ever had a 5 or 6-year-old, you know the process of them mastering language. By 9 years old is when they pick up their first instrument. And how much fun do we have when our children start to experience their first instrument? By age 15 is where the problem solving skills come into play. And this is where they're able to independently do homework that is a little bit more complicated and be able to solve their own problems. By age 25, this is where the understanding and responding to normal rewards would be happening. This is where they should be like coming right out of college, able to sustain a job or a career that they have a degree for. And this is where they're able to recognize peer pressure, kind of have limits, boundaries, healthy boundaries, to be able to go to work, take care of their responsibilities, and then prioritize however they spend their free time by the age 25. Unfortunately, if the brain has been affected, it may not be particularly in this order that they develop these skills. As we continue to progress in life, by age 18, the processing power starts to happen. This is when we are able to start keeping track of details. This is when we're expected to go off to college and handle life independently. I'm not sure for a lot of you if that was an actual accurate number. You know, you go from parents taking care of everything in the house to all of a sudden, just because I'm 18 and graduated high school, I'm responsible enough to go out in the real world and take care of myself. By age 22, this is where we start to learn unfamiliar names because we're more in the world and we're meeting new coworkers, new classmates, we're meeting new people versus the people that we've gone from elementary all the way through high school with. So this is where we start learning new people. Age 32, we're learning how to remember new faces. 43, we start concentrating better. I'm still waiting for that to happen for me, but we start to concentrate just a little bit better. In my life experience, by 43, I have 3 grandchildren and 2 adult children. So my focus is a little altered. However, I'm still a work in progress, right? By age 48, we start to develop other emotions. This is where life starts to get a little serious for us, and we start to focus on retirement and how to wind down the second chapter of our life. By age 50, we start to understand and learn new information. And in my opinion, this is where wisdom starts to happen. And by age 67, we should have a whole new vocabulary. I promise my kids that when I am that 67 plus year old person and they're taking me out in the public, I'm going to use a whole bunch of words that will probably keep them on their toes in public. So yeah, I'm going to challenge myself to new vocabulary. So we ask, is change possible? I like this quote because I thought it was very important. I am very strong on words, and I feel like we become what we say we are. And it was very simple but powerful. Nothing is impossible The word itself says, I'm possible. Thought that was really important. So you ask, how can I help? I think it's important for us to know our roles when it comes to how do we play a part in addiction. And this is nothing to do with the blame game. This is nothing to do with anybody's fault that addiction happened, right? And so when I saw this little picture, I had so many thoughts about how do we play a role in their substance use. So we're going to go over the roles just a little bit. The person in addiction themselves. So this is the person with the addiction. They're usually in the center of the family. And although they are the key person, they're not necessarily the only person suffering from addiction. It seems as if the world revolves around this person, and it causes this person to become the center of attention for the entire family. The role of the victim. The victim comes across as hostile, manipulative, aggressive, filled with self-pity. Their mood can change from blaming others to charming others. The emotional disturbance can cause the person to have rigid values, going from what they believe in to saying things that they really don't mean. The underlying feelings for a victim, so to speak, is usually shame, guilt, fear, pain, and hurt. The hero. The hero is the one who needs to make the family and the role players look good. They ignore the problem and present things in a positive manner. The hero is usually seen as the perfectionist of the family. They're usually the good person. They're high achievers. They follow the rules. They seek everyone's approval, and they are very responsible. If they overcome this role, they can play an important part in an addiction recovery process of the person. The underlying feeling for the person who is considered to be the hero is guilt, hurt, and inadequacy. The mascot. The mascot's role is that of the jester. They will often make inappropriate jokes about those involved. Though they do bring humor to the family roles, it is usually harmful humor that can sometimes hinder the recovery process of the person and the family unit. They come across as immature and fragile. The underlying feelings are usually fear, anxiety, and insecurity. The lost child. The lost child is usually the silent, out of the way person. They never mention addiction or recovery. They are often quiet and reserved, careful not to make problems. They don't like confrontation. The lost child gives up self-need to make the effort to avoid confrontation and communication when it comes to the topic of addiction. The underlying feelings are usually guilt, loneliness, neglect, and anger. The scapegoat. The scapegoat often acts out in front of others. They will rebel, make noise, and divert the attention from the person themselves to be able to make everything look like it's okay. The scapegoat's behavior usually cover up or draws attention away from the true problem onto the person's behavior. The underlying feelings are usually shame, guilt, and emptiness. The caretaker. Most people call them the enabler. I'm sure this word alone raised hairs on some people's neck. But the caretaker is the person who makes all the other roles possible. They try to keep everyone happy and they try to keep the family balanced to avoid issues. They make excuses for all the other behaviors and actions to avoid mentoring the addiction and recovery and the other needs for the family. The caretaker presents a situation without a problem to the public. The underlying feelings of the caretaker is usually inadequacy, fear, and helplessness. They just want everything and everybody to be okay. So, how do we put all the pieces back together? For the person struggling with addiction themselves, there are so many different ways, but it can't just be one or the other. It has to be all the parts in order for the system to heal. So nowadays we have medication assistant treatment. We have medical doctors to be able to take care of all of the medical issues that have happened because of use and because of being without use. We have behavioral therapies. We have recovery support. The person has to get back into the employment industry so they can feel purpose and value and that they can help take care and contribute to the family. Most important thing is love. They need to be loved as well as redevelop self-love and positive social environments. Most of the time, we don't recognize when a person starts the process of substance use, they develop a whole new friend group and they have lost or damaged relationships with their previous loved ones, first family or friends, but those relationships have been altered. And so now that I've stopped substances, I can't be around these people, but I'm too embarrassed to go be around these people. So that leaves me by myself. And so we have a positive social environment, such as Sunday night dinners with family, or going to knitting classes, or getting involved back in sports where they once used to love. And most importantly, time. There is no time strain on when the person will be better. We just have to practice patience as the loved ones and allow time. Is change truly possible? A study published by the CDC and the National Institute of Drug Abuse in 2020 found that 3 out of 4 people who experience addiction eventually recover. So what does this mean? In order to help your loved one, you must take care of yourself first. I'm sure many of you have been on an airplane, and the number one thing that they stress, if this plane should go down, you put the mask on yourself first, because it's nothing like trying to get to someone else to help them when you have no oxygen. And so what are some ways that you can provide self-care to you? Most importantly, educating yourself on the process of substance use as well as recovery. Get information about addiction. Our office is located in Macomb County, so we're in Clinton Township. And right on the other side of the road, there is Macomb Intermediate School District, and they have so many resources. We are also near Macomb Community Mental Health. You have St. Clair Community Mental Health. There are so many places that offer just information. I appreciate being a part of this seminar because all of these webinars, you can go back and just gather information. But in order to understand, we have to go over the information. Get support for yourself. Most people will be like, this is not my problem. This is their problem. In reality, it is all of our problem. It's our problem as family members because we're up all night, unable to sleep, appetites all over the place, irritable mood. As far as coworkers, I can't leave my shift because such and such didn't show up for work because of their substance use. The kids don't have their parents attending their social events because of their substance use, interfered with their ability to wake up and make it to pick them up from practice, take them to practice. So it does affect all of us. It's not just an individual issue. Get counseling for yourself. Sometimes it's hard to talk to family members about the loved one. Like we just went over the roles, it may be someone else's natural defense to protect that person. So you never feel like you're able to talk about how you truly feel. So it is important for you to go to counseling, express how you feel, and then to get that therapeutic feedback that it's okay to feel hurt, it's okay to feel sad, frustrated, irritated, and then they'll give you tools on how to not allow it to infect you, but just affect you. Seek specialty help. Sometimes you yourself might need to see a psychiatrist to help with the ruminating thoughts of what did I do wrong? What could I do better? Or whatever the issues may be. Try not to take the role of the caretaker unless you're taking care of you first. Have realistic expectations. Just because the person has been in treatment for 28 days, let's not assume that they're going to come out and they're going to be that person that you met a long time ago or that 15-year-old before substance use. Like, let's have some realistic expectations. Can they get through the whole day without taking a nap? Can this person clean up the entire garage versus just one area? Like, what are some expectations that the person can achieve so that they don't get overstimulated and you don't get frustrated? Set boundaries that you can keep. That you can keep. How many times as a parent have we set boundaries by saying, you're grounded? Then the child get on your nerve after 3 hours and you give it all back to them just so that they can leave you alone. Let's practice setting boundaries that we can actually stick to. Do not call me after midnight. Do not run in and out of the house. If you're going to live here, you cannot leave after 10 p.m. Like, have rules that are realistic and boundaries that you can state and stick to. So let's talk a little bit about stress, right? We just kind of talked about how the other person's behavior does, in fact, affect the person because it leaves us feeling stressed out when we're worrying all day and all night. And our stress affects our relationship with our significant others and the other children within the home. So let's talk a little bit about stress. Stress is a feeling of emotional or physical tension. This can be experienced by an event or thought that causes feelings of frustration, anger, or nervousness. That feeling is your body reacting to a challenge or a demand. So there's different types of stress. There's positive stress and there's negative stress. Positive stress is usually acute. So this is short term and it goes away within 30 days or less. It helps manage dangerous situations. It occurs when you do something new or exciting. An example can be slamming on the brakes to prevent an accident, or getting into a small argument or a fight with someone. That's very temporary. Within 30 days, it's gone. How do you know when it's becoming to the point that it is unhealthy? Well, that is when the body is in the consistent state of alert, even though the danger is no longer present. It lasts longer than the 30-day time period. It starts to lead to physical or mental health issues. And this is can be something such as financial problems, unhappy marriages, troubles and issues with work. Those are just some small examples. Stress versus anxiety. How can we determine the difference? Stress is caused by a short-term situation that is recognized as a threat, whereas anxiety is stress that continues after the threat is gone, but discomfort reoccurs due to an identified trigger. And so an example could be you get into a car accident and the natural reaction would be stress because now I have to go to the doctor. Now I have these doctor bills to pay and I'm missing work. These are simple stressors. But when it becomes anxiety, now every time I drive in my car and I get to that intersection where the car accident took place, all of a sudden I start to feel heart palpitations. I start to have difficulty breathing. Sometimes hands get clammy, feel nauseated, or maybe even dizziness. That's when I know my issue has moved from regular stress over the situation into anxiety. Sometimes stress and anxiety can look the same. So we have to be mindful of what is happening, the time frame, if there is an actual trigger versus situation, and then we will be able to identify what the difference is if it's stress or anxiety. Both have symptoms of diarrhea or constipation, forgetfulness, frequent aches and pains when there's nothing physically wrong, headaches that won't go away no matter what medication you take, lack of energy and focus, sexual issues. Some people are heightened, some people are decreased. Stiffness in your jaw or neck. Some people have to sleep with mouth guards because they grind their teeth due to the stress and it starts to come out during sleeping hours. Feeling excessive tiredness, trouble sleeping, either sleeping too much or tossing and turning throughout the night. Having an upset stomach that causes the inability to take in food or even water. Consuming substances just to relax. Sometimes there's weight loss or gain due to excessive or under eating. Feeling of nervousness, restlessness, or tension. Sense of impending danger, panic, or doom. Increased heart rate, sweating, trembling, feeling weak and tired, trouble concentrating, and excessively worrying about things that have not taken place yet in life. Health risks of chronic stress. Chronic stress can cause you to develop high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, depression and anxiety, skin problems, menstrual issues, or maybe even performance issues. So here are a few more examples of stressors. Having a baby, yes, it's a good thing, but it can also be stressful too. Becoming married, getting a divorce, having a new job, death of a loved one, losing a job, financial issues, moving, problems within the workplace, problems at home, and new medical diagnoses. These are some examples of stressors. Nature and neurology of stress. stress control center is located within the nervous system. Learning how to take conscious control of your involuntary nervous system through the practice of mindfulness, relaxation activities can help to self-regulate your nervous system response to various situations and experiences. Intensive research has shown that controlling your breathing in the human body also helps to regulate our thoughts, blood pressure, and heart rate. This is why usually if you see someone who struggles with anxiety, the techniques are usually used to calm them down is breathing techniques, because if you can slow down the physical body, then all of the symptoms you're taking control of your thoughts, and then you can calm all those symptoms down just by taking control of the way your heart is beating. So some stress management techniques. How do you take care of you? Again, we can start with some mindfulness breathing, paying attention to the breaths that you take in. Mindfulness breathing allow you to be aware of the breaths so that you can focus on one thing. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of like the third eye. A lot of times when I have people to practice breathing, I have them close their eyes and focus on looking at this particular area, and then doing the breaths. Because if you can focus on one area, then you don't feel like you're all over the place. Because it's easy to say breathe, but we don't tell a person how to slow down their thoughts at the same time. And so sometimes having something to focus on could be super helpful when you're doing the breathing techniques. Meditation is very helpful. You can always go on to YouTube and do like a 5-minute meditation just to help yourself calm down. I like now they have the guided meditation, so you actually have someone there talking to you when your brain and your thoughts start to wander, to bring you back to the center and teach you how to focus on breathing. Having some good thinking patterns, learning how to say out loud positive things when our brain starts to focus on all the negative around us. So just being able to look around the room and, identify, that picture I bought when we went to Hawaii as a family, or just thinking of all positive things that you can say to be able to change that energy within. Mindful eating. It is so hard to mindfully eat when we're stressed out, because either we don't want to eat or we eat all the bad things that we're not supposed to eat. And so it's important to be conscious of what foods are you putting in your body, because what you feed your body also feeds your mind. And some other ways to mindfully eat. Yoga. Yoga is very important. Yoga teaches us how to stretch our body and how to be able to relax areas that we didn't even know held tension. And so yoga is very helpful. Qigong is also another form of body relaxation. It recognizes the necessity of combining focus and concentration and the body movements for a healthier, more stable balance. Tai Chi. And in general, just exercise. Moving around changes not just our physical, but it also changes our thought process. Just getting that moving around, sweating, exerting that energy, first negative or positive. Sometimes we just need our body to get active. And here are some other supports. Most times family members don't feel Al-Anon is important because I'm not using. Al-Anon is a support group for family members to be able to be in an environment where you can find you're not the only one who has ever felt the way you feel or struggles with how to separate yourself from the situation. So Al-Anon is a support group that is specifically for the family members. And we had talked before about outpatient therapy, medication assistant therapy, music therapy, psychiatry services, and other social support groups. And these are our resources. And if you know someone who is interested in starting a new lifestyle change, you can always give us a call to be able to participate in changing lives one person at a time. And so I appreciate you guys for participating in this webinar, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sharita. That was so much great information on just really a lot of information on how to take care of ourselves during stressful situations and how important it is. We really appreciate that. I didn't see any questions at this time. A lot of thank yous in the chat. I know you can't see the chat right now, but everyone is saying thank you very much. And like we said, these slides will be available on the St. Clair County Community Mental Health website, and the video will be available on the St. Clair County Community Mental Health YouTube channel, probably within a week. Just as we close, I just want to say a reminder that the Recovery Summit is going on all month with different topics and speakers planned each weekday. We do have another presentation this afternoon at 2 o'clock presented by Devin France and Megan Kuhn on DBT and the 12 steps. To see information and register for additional sessions, please visit sccmh.org under the Events tab and Recovery Summit. Again, if you're requesting professional credits, you'll receive your certificate of accumulated credits by October 30th via email. A reminder, please complete the short survey at the conclusion of the webinar. We appreciate all the feedback. And I'd like to thank Sharita again. Your time and information is very much appreciated. Thank you all who attended this morning. I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you as well. Thanks, everybody.